Well, hello there. See, I was trying to figure out something else other than welcome back and well, because apparently that's like the only two go to introduction comments that I make. So, welcome back to the Sarcastically Optimistic podcast. Yeah. Yes, that is still me. Welcome to my world. And I did get that voice from the three little pigs from Shrek. That's absolutely right. Welcome back to episode whatever, because I don't put the numbers anymore, because I just want to not count my episodes but make my episodes count, that kind of thing. Yeah. Well, I lost a lot of listeners by just saying that sentence, but I'd like to thank you guys so much. First off, I want to thank you guys so much for listening into last week's episode, which was with the one and only my mom, right? Because I was at home, and I'm still at home, right? I mean, I did go back. I did work, but then I had to come back this weekend for this little one. For my visual listeners out there, look at this one. Look at, there was no babysitter to babysit this one. It's a dog. It's a dog. It's Moana. Moana the dog. Moni for short. You want to say something to the camera? Okay, she's eating the microphone. We're putting her back down. So I'm dog sitting. So I'm stuck at home again, and here we are. So why is this podcast a thing? I want to address that really quick, because it is a conversation between you and me. And in the case of last week's episode, it was a conversation between us and my mom. So a lot of people are going to be, again, putting their 2 cents in here in this podcast, and it's a great time. I really enjoy having guests. I need to learn how to talk less, for sure. Sorry, Mom. But I hope that you guys enjoyed her episode. I saw that a lot of people really liked the visual aspect of that one, because you can see her reactions, and you can see if she was really wearing headphones that were not plugged in, and she was. So for today's episode, I didn't want to make it an hour and a half, as you can tell by the timestamp. But today's episode it does sound a little clickbaity, and it's because it's an important issue. Sorry, I have to check on Moana here and there, so there might be some slight pauses. The title of this episode, and I haven't really solidified it yet. Sorry, that is her. She is gnawing on a brush. One thing that I want to cover today is how busyness is ruining your life, right? Being busy. How being busy is ruining your life. So either one of those two titles will be the final title of this episode, but just going about Moni, shush. So, sorry guys. So, I want to go through either one of those, right? But this is the concept of busyness, right? And this is a really important subject, because, as you can tell, this podcast does revolve around the idea of time. Time being the most invaluable asset that we all have. And it's just a matter of not wasting it and using the most of it. Please do not bite the plug, doggy, please. So utilizing those times to do what is essential to you, right? And one concept that always comes up, and especially this past week, and as we're approaching spring break and approaching Easter break and all that stuff, because, typically all of us work 9 to 5s, and all those breaks are coming up for a majority of the globe. We always are busy, right? We're always saying that we're busy to do this, right? I can't do this, right? And coming from, a college where it's romanticized to do pull all-nighters and do all these things, and pulling all-nighters isn't just a college thing. A lot of people in adulthood, and even probably high school, which I don't recommend at all, they know what all-nighters are, meaning that you just go like a full day without sleeping, right? And it's because we're so darn busy. So we always have at least one friend, minimum, where you always ask them, oh, are you free here? Like, you want to hang out or something like that? And they say, no, I'm busy, right? And we're reaching a point in our generation, especially the Gen Z millennial generation, where we always equivocate being busy with our sense of importance, right? Because when we say we're busy, it's like kind of an implied no. It's not really a no. It's just clarifying that we don't want to make time for something, or that we can't make time for something. And we're getting to this point in society where, again, where we're saying we're busy, And it just gives us a good sense of gratification because it makes us feel important knowing that our schedule is booked up. Now, is that the healthiest option, right? Is that the best way to go about your days and things like that? And that's something I want to talk about today because, again, I keep saying again, we're approaching spring break and we're approaching Easter break. And the thing about it is we are getting really busy, right, as we're wrapping up a lot of things before break happens. And a lot of our bosses and a lot of our workplaces are trying to get as much done before the break happens. So this is not restricted to just one individual or one workplace. This is very, very applicable for many workplaces. So being busy, why is that ruining your life? If you think about it, how do we define busyness? Busyness means that we have a calendar, right? For those college students out there that are really, really adept to marking and time blocking each minute of the day, saying, from 9 to 9:25, I'm going to brush my teeth. 25 minutes to brush your teeth? That's crazy. 9:25 to 9:45, you're going to shower. 20 minutes to shower? Really? That short? That long? And then, so on and so forth. You have lecture, and then you have to eat, and then you hang out with friends, all that stuff. And some people don't even make time to hang out with friends. They typically like to fill up their workday. They don't like seeing themselves, they don't like to give themselves times because they feel like busyness is a part of themselves. It's the main sense of importance for all of us. So going back to it, is busyness really helping you out, right? It's a yes and a no, right? Because busyness does sometimes mean being productive. Yes, we are busy at times, right? We are working or we're working on some sort of project, thing that's really important to us. That is busy, and that does take time in some cases. But you can clarify this for yourself, that you've probably said that you're busy, and when you said no to that person that asked you if you're free, or that time that you said you were busy and you actually did the thing that you were busy with, it wasn't as productive as you thought, right? Because again, busyness kind of loses its value. As you continue to say, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy, you're actively convincing yourself that you really don't have enough time, or not as much time as the person next to you. And you can kind of tell where the kind of toxicity, negativity might come in, right? If we're not making time for the people that matter to us, and, even that's very last, but the first thing is making time for yourself to do things that you enjoy, to spend time with things that you enjoy doing, and spending time with people that you enjoy spending time with. That takes away from the productivity that is busyness, right? You have to make time for yourself in some regard. You have to make time for others that really value you and make you feel valued, because this journey is not something that should be taken alone. We should go together in some cases. And as we are continuing to say busy, we're busy this, we're busy that, we are psychologically convincing ourselves that we have no time for anything but something that, can wait, right? We have to learn how to make time for ourselves, for others. Once you have enough self-love and you've, contributed enough time for yourself and given yourself enough self-love. But being busy is detracting us from what's really important. And one thing I want to bring out in this podcast is the importance of rest, right? And a lot of people are saying, oh, rest, like what does that mean? Like sleeping? Yeah, we're in this generation again that we are kind of convinced that rest is equal to sleeping. But that isn't always the case, right? In this episode, there's a lot of definitions that are not aligned well anymore because of the generations that have come and gone and things like that. So now when you think of the word rest, you think of sleep. But rest, for a normal definition, would be acts of decompression, where you are, again, making time for yourself, making time for others, do things that you love, maybe taking like a bubble bath or things like that, That is also rest. It's not just sleep. Now, the one word I want to bring up in this episode, and I want you to actively think about it and what your definition of it is leisure, right? What is leisure to you specifically? What is leisure? When we think of leisure, right? When someone says, what do you do for leisure? Like, what do you do leisurely? And the first thing that comes up to us in our minds is, what is that? Leisure is equal to the activity that you partake in outside of work. So when you're not doing work, what are you doing? And that is what we are defining leisure as in this generation, right? And it's kind of lost its meaning, right? Because leisure, when that word was, still held its value, meant an active engagement in, nature or contemplation and things that bring life, right? That bring energy into your life. Now, leisure refers to this time in which we are not working our 9 to 5. We're not actively, squeezing out all the energy that we have. That is leisure to us, and that is not going to be an appropriate term if you're going to find happiness or making time for yourself. Like we're talking about, this is the main topic, which is making time and how being busy isn't really productive, nor does it grant you any more importance than you already have. So leisure is losing its value just as busyness is, right? As we're saying, we're busy. That doesn't equal you being more important, right? That doesn't mean that you can, push people aside and things because you're busy. Like, I don't know what to say to you. Like, it's just being busy doesn't give you validation to push things that matter to you to the side. Okay, that's one thing I want to bring up. I do have a book this time. I really wanted to bring a book this time around. And this is a really important book that was brought up to my attention a long time ago by my dad. So my dad was telling me, he gave me a book which was called Today Matters, I think, by John C. Maxwell. That's a very good book, but that's not the book I want to talk about. So that book, again, it's kind of clarifying that each day that we partake in has its own worth, right? We have to know how to navigate it and maximize the benefit of each day. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we treat each day equally, because there are more days that have a lot of important events that happen predictably and unpredictably. And we still have to maximize our happiness, maximize our energy, our output, as well as our input during those days. The book I wanted to talk about and bring up to you guys is this book called Rest. And so it's actually called Rest. And the subtitle is Why You Get More Done When You Work Less, right? And this is written by a guy named Soojung-Kim, right? And I didn't want to mess up his last name, so I pulled it up in front of me. So again, this book called Rest by Soojung-Kim. I'm going to put the book title in the episode description so that you guys will probably look into it. Hopefully you do. It's a very great book. And it's a book that talks about how, yes, we are workers. Yes, we are workers. When we wake up, we have to go to work. And when we come back from work, do we detach that time to be Monish? Do we attach that time or detach that time from being a worker to being a person, right? Being a person, doing things that we love. Because you guys know that when you guys go to your 9 to 5 and you come back at 5 o'clock, does work ever end? Does it end? Does it? Usually it doesn't, right? The work or whatever happened at work usually comes back home with you. And that kind of gives more value to you identifying points in which you can rest, where you can decompress, where you can engage in nature or in contemplation or with your own thoughts, right? You shouldn't allow work to be kind of enveloping your entire energy source, your entire mentality, right? And this is something that my mom talked about in last episode where, you should not, sorry, I kind of brain farted a bit, but she referred to that there is life out there. There is something that is there for you, right? Do not go too quickly, because work and the countless responsibilities are waiting for you in the coming years. But you right now actually have significantly less responsibility, have so much energy than you are to have maybe even 5 to 10 years from now, right? And it's really important to know that you are your own person and you can't allow work to muddle your identity as a person. Because yes, we all acknowledge that we are workers, we identify as workers, but when you go home, I know it's very difficult and it's easier to say than done. We shouldn't be taking work with us, because if we're a worker 24/7, all day round, all week round, all year round, then we're going to easily do something called burnout. There's a lot of buzzwords here. Burnout, my college students out there, shout out to you guys. Burning out meaning you're not giving yourself breaks. You are allowing leisure and busyness kind of commingle, right? And those should be two separate aspects of you as a person: what you do for work and what you do leisurely. And that doesn't just mean like I sleep leisurely. It's like, no, that doesn't really mean fully rest. That means leisure means that you're doing things that you love, that you enjoy. And that is a recurrent theme across this podcast, right? So there are really big points that Alex Soojung-Kim Pang brings up in this book. And he talks about how we are romanticizing and giving ourselves this artificial importance by saying we are busy, that we are not allowing ourselves to rest. And what he basically does is maps out all of these different workplaces, and they kind of extrapolate this data, and they see that a lot of companies that are maximizing the work hours of each employee actually leads to a reduction in actual productivity, right, in actual output. While those that have lower hours, right, so those of you that work from home and probably have less hours and more time to rest, as opposed to just the Saturday, Sunday, they were more productive, right? And he kind of states that although that you may have vacation, right, like you may have vacation like a weekend or maybe like a week Easter vacation for my teachers out there, that in the context of a full-time job, that is not enough rest or break to be given to the workers, especially those that output so much. And this is not restricted, again, to a specific occupation. We are all typically, at times overworked, if not consistently overworked. And that 1 to 2 weeks is not enough, right? Because we're only typically given like how many days of sick days as workers, right? And if you think about it and you look at the grand scheme of things, it's not enough time for us to fully rest from the strenuous work that's going to greet us in the office the next morning or the following week in which we come back, right? So in the previous years, right, we've grown into this 9-to-5 culture where we're all active workers, 40 hours a week, and we're trying to put our best foot forward, 100% of our energy into the given work that we have. But then all we have to rest is Saturday, Sunday. So for those self-help, like entrepreneurship people out there is a great book out there by Tim Ferriss. And this is something you'll probably hear by YouTubers, because YouTubers love talking about this book. And it's called, sorry, I was checking on the dog. She's like biting on my leg. There's this book called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. And it discusses how we can escape this 9-to-5, that we can escape this 40-hour work week, and how we can maximize our essentially profit and maximize our life energy by consolidating those hours into high intense, very few hours, right? The 4-hour work week, that's what it's called. But we're maximizing those 4 hours to the most intense volume that we can, right? We're trying to maximize as much output as we can those 4 hours, as opposed to having 7 days of just half-assed work. Excuse my language. So that's another great book, again, how we can figure out ways and identify factors of which we can escape this 40-hour work week and reduce it to, how Tim Ferriss says it, 4 hours. It's a great book. You should look it up. It talks about things like outsourcing, starting your business, and how to do all those great things. But that can be saved for another episode. Going back to what we were talking about is rest, right? We are talking about the importance of rest and how you, as a listener, and me as a person as well, like a person and listener, me as a listener as well to my own voice, is how do we define leisure and how do we define busyness? Because again, I'm going to say it one more time, busyness doesn't grant you more importance. It doesn't make you a more high valued person saying that you're busy all the time, right? Because what makes you important, and importance is subjective, is the time that you make for yourself, the time that you make for others and things like that, the connection that you feel with your own inner being and also with other people. That's what really matters. That's what's going to grant you the importance that you deserve at the end of the day, for a lack of a better term. Okay, so there is another book. I keep drawing books out here. So define what leisure means to you. Define what busyness means to you. And maybe look back at your week. And a lot of people do this, but they basically go throughout the entire week and look back possibly on Friday or Sunday at the wrap up of the end of the week and look about how they spent their time, right? And there's a lot of great resources out there that help you kind of time block and see where your time is allocated. For some of us, we value a lot of what we do for leisure, right? Like for most of us from 9 to 5, right when we come back home from our 9 to 5, we just hit the couch and just start watching Netflix or something like that. And that is leisure, right? Like that is in your own right. But there are other things than TV and social media that you can utilize that are leisure, right? A lot of people like walking in the park, or a lot of people like reading books. So those are leisure activities that shouldn't die out in your life. Those are things that should still continue to live on as you're growing older, right? Because you are growing older, right? We're all going to die someday, but considering that, do things that you enjoy, do things that you love, and spend it with people that you love. That rest is important, right? So rest is more, if not as important as you working. Actually, I take that back. Rest is more important than working those extreme hours that you are, because I know every single listener here is an extremely great worker and they're really stretching out their energy. But do not, I repeat, do not, PSA, code 619, Rey Mysterio, do not allow work to infect your mind when it's your leisure time. It is important to note that you deserve the rest that you have been thinking about. Sorry, Moni is resting. Are you resting? What are you doing? Sorry, I keep interrupting this episode because of this dog. I'm dog sitting. So, it is important to rest. Please, 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 find some rest. As my mom does. Moni, shush, I'm recording. I'm just kidding. She's a great dog. It's important to rest. Moni actually has a good example. This dog sleeps 20 hours of the 24 hours of each day. And when those 4 hours, when she's not sleeping, she's running around, hugging, licking, everything she needs to do, because that is what makes her happy. She loves to rest and play. See, she's quiet because I'm talking about her. I hope everyone that's listening gets a chance to meet her at least once. She's a great pal. So another book that I want to bring up, and I want to delve into this a lot in a future episode, and it's about deep work. And it is a book called Deep Work. It's something I referred to in a previous episode, the productivity versus hustle episode. I referred to this book called Deep Work by Cal Newport. And it discusses how we can identify points in our day in which we are highly and maximally efficient, and we should double down on, wow, you can really hear that one. You can double down on what matters to you, right? For him, he kind of locks his door and he figures out that, 3 to 4 p.m. he's really productive. So that hour is singularly dedicated to working on what he needs to work on, right? So always note that your resting and your busyness should be defined differently. They shouldn't be exactly the same. Yes, you may work intensely for, let's say, like 3 to 4 hours. Scientifically, actually, we all have our main productivity. Like we have only like 4 productive hours per day, like fully productive, because everything else is kind of segmented by our distractions and everything around us. But yeah, deep work is something I want to talk about in a future episode. So again, you as a listener and me as a listener as well, define what leisure means to you. What does that mean? What does rest look like? And again, rest isn't just sleep. Rest isn't just napping. Like, you deserve more than that 21-minute nap. You deserve more than the 8 hours of sleep. What are you doing to rest, to fully rest and engage, or actually in this case, disengage with work and engage with your environment, engage with your thoughts and everything like that? Okay? So Moni is getting really frantic, and this episode's already reaching 24 minutes, and I apologize. It's not going to be an hour and a half. So know what matters to you. And this is a topic that does come up frequently in every episode, because what you do for leisure and what you do for rest is ultimately going to define your energy for the remainder of the day. And I think she needs to go to the bathroom. So guys, I love you all. You all know what makes you feel rested, that makes you feel like you are doing leisure, you are having fun. You know those things. Now it's time to list them out and actually partake in them, rather than prioritizing work all the time and making sure that you are burnt out every other week. No, Know what makes you rested, know what makes you happy, and that is what's going to define your importance at the end of the day. Not how busy you are, not the amount of times that you say that you're busy to a friend or a family member that is really important to you. That isn't what makes you important. What makes you important is how well you are comfortable in your own skin and how much respect you have for yourself to give yourself that rest to continue forward with the week, because that is what's going to define who you are as a person. And I love you guys. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for listening to this really, it's sort of mini compared to the last week's episode. Also, I want to thank you on behalf of my mom. She really, really was taken aback by all the positive comments that were made from her story. She had a beautiful story. So if you haven't checked it out, do check it out. She's great. She's a great guest. She might come back soon. We don't know. I love you guys. You are exactly where you need to be. Know what leisure means to you. Know what rest is. That is not just sleep, not just naps. What does being rested mean to you? Thank you guys for listening. I have to go take the dog out to go pee pee and poo poo. Okay. All right, guys. Great job reaching the end of the week. This is the start of a new week. This is our first Monday drop episodes. I hope that you enjoyed this one as much as I did. So I apologize for Moni being really annoying. But, that is what dog sitting is about. And I love her just as much as I love you guys. And she loves you too. See, she's whining because she's going to miss you guys. Have a great rest of your week, guys. Maybe there will be a 2 for this week. Maybe I'll drop one on our typical Friday day schedule. But enjoy the rest of the week. Make sure you are reinvigorating yourself with those moments of rest and relaxation and leisure that you really deserve. All right, guys. I will catch you on the flippity flip. Goodbye.
Baby, why you always smoke a J, relax and watch some anime, come through to the pad I'm trying to play. The Super Smash Bros, what you know? Wait to let me pick Blue Carbo, you don't even know what I'm saying. Up B, and down B, now be playing, praying. Anything with you, baby girl, if the day